Hello, everybody. My name is Luwiza Muthuri. I am currently working as a project manager for Booz Allen Hamilton. I'm stationed in Washington, D.C. I hold a master's in public policy as well as public administration from Johns Hopkins University. And as a millennial, I realize how important it is for our age generation and cohort to become more knowledgeable about finances and what that means, especially in today's age, where there's a lot of economic uncertainty, particularly with the COVID-19 issue that's going on. So I wanted to join and be part of this discourse on finances because I feel like it's critical for everyone at each generational stage to understand and know what it really means to be financially literate. So good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're at right now. This is our second Brunch and Learn, hosted by ZLA, which is Zambians Promoting Leadership in America, as well as AZA, which is the Association of Zambians in Atlanta. So this Brunch and Learn is going to focus more so on financial literacy, particularly destigmatizing all the myths around finances, as well as financial planning, all the way down to real estate and buying a home or making an investment. So our speakers today are going to be Joshua Mwanza, who's CEO for Mwanza Financial Group, Luwiza Muthuri, who's a certified residential underwriter, as well as a realtor, and Noel Mwamba, a renowned real estate broker, and also CEO for Mwamba Realty.
My theme is always based on building a strong financial base. As a people, we're coming from a background where these are not discussions we ever had in our homes with our parents and stuff like that. What I do advise to do as you start, building that strong financial base is you need to set yourself some goals. What is your 5-year goal? What is your 10? What is your 20 and beyond that? And then we now start to reverse engineer how do we get to those goals, right? And that will always start with having a budget. So once you know your budget, then it becomes easy to know, okay, if I have a budget, how can I manage to put aside 6 months worth of money to be able to take care of those living expenses? Because at some point you may lose your job. So you need to be able to be in a position where within that 6 months, if let's say you lost a job, at least all your expenses to be paid for. Okay, and that's really, really key. Now, once you have all that secured, now you start looking at, what investment opportunities do I have or can I look into to be able to achieve those short-term, medium, and long-term goals I have. Now, this is where you start looking into things like, stock trading, bonds, currency trading. Cryptocurrency has become really big in the last few years. I used to trade stocks and options a few years back. Actually, that is how I put myself through grad school. I never took student loans. I traded stocks, and it really worked well for me. Then the other areas now, which are also really becoming big, is being an angel investor. With a lot of startups, especially on the continent of Africa, you can now take a small position in a startup that, you can throw in $100, whatever, 1,000, hoping and praying that in the next 5-10 years when it goes IPO, you'll be a millionaire. But always do your due diligence. Okay, find out what the track of this company, what they've done in the past. Don't just go there and start throwing in money, and because you just never know what the people in there are doing. And that works both ways, whether it's here or back home. If you're in Zambia, for example, when it comes to stock trading, you can always contact the Lusaka Stock Exchange. They have a lot of companies, some of which I've been talking to in the last couple of months. You can even open an account from the US. You send the money, they'll assign an analyst with you. That person will be able to advise you what stocks you can buy and things like that. You can give those instructions right from here. So again, just always do your homework. And then in my line of work also, we get to work with a lot of companies setting up retirement plans. The famous ones being the 401ks, the 403bs. And I also have to stress that a lot of companies are also beginning to do away with these programs just because they're an expense to them. And most of the companies, they now do not want to deal with such expenses. So it's now incumbent upon an individual literally to craft the retirement plan for yourselves. And there are a lot of companies out there which will do that for you on an individual basis. They have different programs, different products out there which you can use. The other area that we really do work a lot is in the life insurance area. To me, I think that is really critical. Whether you're married, single, it's complicated, life happens. That's just the way it is. Now, with our tradition, most of the times when we hear about life insurance, we're thinking about death. My 7-year-old and my 4-year-old have got life insurance policies. Now, when I took them, I wasn't thinking about my kids dying. I was thinking of everything else that would be able to get through those policies. Okay? What are those things? So while they're still alive, they have access to living benefits. You know, if they ever have a terminal illness, chronic or critical illness, my kids will be covered. And then there are now policies also where when you take such a policy, at the end of it all, the insurance company will write you back a check of everything that you paid them during whether it was a 30-year period or 20-year period. And if you took let's say a permanent policy, those are the type of policies I have for my kids, I get to accumulate a lot of cash in those policies. And the reason I did those policies for my kids was I'll be able to pull the cash value out of that to pay for college, for their college. My strategy is to do our student loans as much as possible. If at all they ever take a student loan, it will be very, very minimal. That was my strategy behind that. If you're pre-college, you have to also rethink your college choices. I mean, it's great to go straight to all these Ivy Leagues, Harvard, Yale, name them. Okay, it feels great and all that kind of thing. But in the end, if it gives you that big student loan, it becomes a problem down the line. It doesn't hurt to start at a community college, because a lot of people can afford community college straight out of pocket. Okay, so basically what you do within the first 2 years, you're eliminating almost 100,000 to 100,000, 150, maybe even 200,000 worth of student loans. And then by the time you're finishing, you're going to senior college, you now just have to deal with a small amount. Out of that, if you have scholarship, it even becomes better. Then when it's all said and done, the debt that you may have may be very, very minimal. And also just look at a lot of scholarships. And then also if you have to work part-time, and if you also have to take a time off from college, it's worth it. I mean, I took what was supposed to be a semester off, even though it ended up being 4 years. But, I was having financial difficulties at the time. I decided to take a semester off, ended up being 4 years, but I'm glad I did, because in the end, I still walked out without student loans. Now, coming back to the investments, there are a few things that one needs to know or needs to do. First of all, you need to make sure that you include all your assets and income in your investment plan. That's really critical. And then also make a determination of the time horizon and your asset allocation. Are you the type of person that wants to invest for 1 year, for 2 years, for 5 years? So you have to look at those things and then diversify your investment to reduce the risk. And then also do not panic and sell your good investment and just, at distressed prices. The last 4 months, 4 months, those of you with 401ks felt the pinch, I think 3 months ago. I think the average 401k loss probably 31%. There were a few people panicked and they sold, but then the markets have now been coming back. But whatever situation you find yourself, do not panic. If your plan is 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, do not panic. Just go by that plan. These things happen in the market. For those of you who have large investments and stuff like that, always make sure that you prepare end of life estate documents. And always make sure your family knows where those documents are. Trust me, I deal with a lot of Africans here. The wife doesn't know what the husband is doing, and vice versa, especially the husbands. We are a mess sometimes. So that's just my two cents that I had for you guys. Unless if you have any questions, I'll throw it back to you.
Thank you so much, Joshua Mwanza, for sharing your expertise and knowledge about financial planning. I feel that that's very important for every generation to know, particularly with the need to invest wisely and create a plan. I think that with a lot of people, it's kind of a one-off wish, or I'm going to invest in this, without creating a 1 year, 4 year, or 10 year, or even lifetime plan. So that was my big takeaway from it as a millennial, and the need to just really think wisely through the plan before just jumping head on in. Our next speaker is going to be Miss Luwiza Muthuri. She is a certified residential underwriter as well as realtor, and she is going to be talking about the importance of a credit score.
Good morning, everyone. Depending on where you are, good afternoon. And thank you, Luwiza. So understanding how credit scores work can give you a better picture of your financial well-being. So the first thing that I'm going to start talking about is, what is a credit score? A credit score is basically what a lender uses to determine your payment habits. It will tell the lender your payment history. It'll give them an idea of how often do you pay your credits, do you pay your credits on time? And a credit score is also known as a FICO score, and it's a number that ranges from 300 to 850. On the right of my slide, I've outlined the ranges of credit scores. So you can kind of see what it means to have an excellent credit score. If you have a score from 781 to 850, that's considered an excellent score. 601 to 660, that's fair, and below 500 is bad credit. To the left of the slide, I've outlined 5 major factors that are so important that impact your credit score. The first one is your payment history, paying your bills on time. The lender's gonna look, how often does this person pay? Does this person pay their bills on time? The second thing will be the level of your credit utilization. Are you always using your credit cards all the time? The third one is the age of your credit. Is it 2 years, 3 years? How long have you had this credit card, or how long have you had this car loan? And then the fourth thing is the diversity of your credit. That holds 10%. What kind of debt do you have? You have your car loans, you have your credit cards, you have your revolving debts, you have your store credits. And then the last one is 10% of that is the number of credit inquiries. How often are people pulling the credit? So all those factors put together is what determines what your credit score is going to be. The next thing that I wanted to sort of talk about was understanding credit utilization. Because this is also one of the factors that impacts your credit score. You have to keep your credit utilization ratio below 30% to maintain a good or excellent credit score. So for example, if you have a credit card that has, or a store credit that has $1,000 limit, you should only owe below 300, so that can help you maintain a good credit score. If you're going to spend more than $500, if you're able to pay it off at the end of the month, then pay it off. If not, I've just given you at the bottom of my slide, I have some tips of how you can improve that, how you can improve your credit utilization. The first part is pay down your debts. If you're able to pay it off, pay it off. If not, just pay off more than your minimum payment. And then the next thing is increase your credit limit. If you have a credit limit, let's say some lenders or even credit card companies, if you give them a call and say, look, my credit limit is $8,000. Can you see if you can increase that to $10,000? That's something that they can do for you. And that will help you with increasing your credit score. Another thing is when you pay off your cards, keep them open. Do not close them, because when you close your cards, it drops your credit score. If you know that if you're the type of person that says, well, I have this credit card and it has like a $5,000 limit on it, I'm gonna go spending, cut the card, but just don't close that account. Now let's talk about the 5 things that you need to know about your credit score. Number 1, purchases. If you have poor credit, it's gonna make it difficult for you to get a loan. So the higher your credit score, the lower your interest rate. Secondly, interest rate. If you've got a high credit score, it's going to mean that you're going to get a lower interest rate. It will help you on the credit cards. It will help you on the mortgage loans that you apply for. It will help you on getting a good rate on your car loan. And also good credit will also help you when you're trying to shop around for car insurance. Even mortgage insurance, they look at your credit as well. They look at your credit. If you're going to rent a house, if you're going to rent an apartment, they will look at credit as well. If you've moved into an apartment, you're trying to maybe turn on some utilities, they pull your credit when it comes to that as well. The third thing is your dream job. Companies nowadays pull your credit report, and that kind of gives them an idea of your character. It shows them your spending habits. I know in the financial sector, they pull your credit just to see, how disciplined you are. So if you have credit issues, sometimes that can jeopardize your dream job. Saving money. The higher your credit score, the lower your interest rate. And that means that you're going to have a lower monthly payment. And if you have bad credit, then that's going to be vice versa. You're going to have a higher interest rate and your monthly payment is going to be higher. Paying your bills on time. Wow, that one is so important. And it's one of the fastest ways for you to mess up your credit is if you pay your bills late. If you pay your bills, let's say your credit card is due on the 15th and then you don't pay it until the 16th of the next month, that makes it 31 days late. And what happens with that is the creditor is going to report to the credit bureau that you're late. And when that happens, that goes on your credit report. And it can take up to 7 years for that to be taken off. So you don't want to be late on your bills. If you can't pay more, just pay the minimum payment. But the bottom line is you have to pay your bills on time. Don't allow medical bills to go into collection. I know a lot of people see a medical bill come through the mail and they're like, oh, it's just a medical bill. Those can become enemies. You want to pay those on time. You can call your doctor's office or whoever it is that's sending you to the hospital. Make some sort of a payment plan with them because you just don't want to ignore those bills. When they show up as a collection, they're very difficult to take off. They will stay on your credit report. They will affect your credit score. And you don't want that to happen. So you always just want to pay your bills on time. I've seen situations where, we're in the process of maybe approving somebody on a loan. And mortgage companies nowadays will pull your credit at the beginning when you put in an application. And they'll also pull your credit maybe 2 or 3 days before closing. So if you didn't pay your credit card and then it's now reported to the credit bureau that you're 31 days late or 32 days late, that's going to drop your score. If we pull the credit and we find that you have a late score, that might affect your interest rate. And sometimes that may cause your loan to be denied. And then you end up not even, moving into the house, your dream house that you wanted to move into. So I cannot emphasize enough, pay your bills on time. It is so important. Some people may say, well, maybe I forgot. And I get that a lot from customers who will say, well, I didn't remember. If you can, credit card companies now send you alerts. You can even have them send you an alert on your phone where to say, hey, your credit card bill is due in 5 days, or they can send you an email. Now, during these times that we're in, you have maybe asking yourself, well, that's great. It's always a good idea to pay your bills on time or having good credit, but what do I need to do to protect my credit during this COVID-19 pandemic? First thing, pay your bills, pay the bills on time, pay as much as you can. I understand that times are hard right now, but even if it means you just paying your minimum payment, pay it. Secondly, contact your lenders. Credit card companies now, with everything that's going on, are willing to reduce your interest rate, maybe even up to 12 months. You can call them and just say, look, if you have 3 or 4 credit cards, tell them, look, this is what's going on. Can you just work with me? Suspend my interest for 12 months, and then you make as little payment as you can, just so that you can avoid the late payments showing up on your credit report. Check your credit reports. Right now is the time to check your credit. Everybody is entitled to a free annual credit report every year. And that's, at the end of this slide, I've actually put a resource that you can go to be able to get your credit report. It's so important to know what's on your credit report. And then when you're trying to apply for a loan, you don't want any surprises. So it's important for you to look and know exactly what's on there. And if there's any discrepancies, it'll give you an opportunity to be able to dispute those discrepancies. So once you check your credit report, look at inquiries, look at credit accounts that are open that maybe you may not be aware of. And if you see anything that's on there that you're not aware of, you could dispute them. Experian.com does have that service where you can go in and dispute, and then they'll go ahead and follow up and find out who did that. And if it's not yours, and then they'll take it off. And then the other thing you could do is you can also contact your service providers. So if you're having difficulties with the pandemic, give your utility company a call. You can call your electrical company, your cell phone company. You're just trying to avoid to get all those bills to go into collections, and they will work out payment arrangements with you. Identity protection. Whenever you have a crisis going on in the economy, it always somehow raises fraud and identity theft. So one of the things that I can suggest is you could freeze your credit. It's free. You can call any of the 3 credit bureaus, have them freeze, and that way it just prevents from people going out there, stealing your identity, opening credit cards that you're not aware of, or opening up loans that you're not aware of. And then maybe about after a year or so, you can unfreeze it, but there's no charge for doing that. All that is free. And then the final thing I was going to talk about as far as the pandemic is the CARES Act has put in some programs to help people with being able to protect their credit during this time. So in conclusion, I'm going to say it again, pay your bills on time. And if you pay your bills on time, and if you don't max out your credit cards and you don't apply for new credit too frequently, your credit score will be higher. Student loans, while they may not have an immediate impact on your credit score, they can be a hindrance in trying to secure an FHA loan, which is a government loan when you're trying to purchase a house. And just like Mr. Mwanza said, I mean, if you're able to avoid student loans, I think that's the best thing to do. And then inquiries. That's one thing that if you're looking for a house or if you're trying to buy an auto loan, if you go, you have about 45, I'll say 14 to 45 days for your credit to not be affected as you shop around. So you can shop around and look for the best rates. But after that, after about 45 days, I wouldn't have too many people pulling your credit. And then at the bottom, I've put in some helpful resources. If you go to annualcreditreport.com, that's where you can get a free credit report. And today I would like to challenge those of us who have not pulled our credit, pull your credit, it's free. And I think for like a little fee, you can also get your credit score. Pull it, look through your credit. If there's things that you don't understand or you don't know what they are, give the credit bureau a call. They'll definitely, love to talk to you. You can just send them an email. Experian.com also has great resources about the CARES Act and the things that you could do to protect your credit during this pandemic. But in summary, all I can say is, just pay your bills on time. If anybody is on the call that doesn't have good credit or doesn't have credit at all, one of the best things that you could do is you can go to Capital One and apply for a credit card. Try to use that credit card if it's just your first time that you're doing this, if there's a millennial on the phone or somebody who's older that doesn't know anything about, credit or wants to build credit. Capital One is great with that. You can open an account with them or even Discover. I believe Discover has really good credit cards for students. Use it, I would say you could use it every month, but just make sure at the end of the month you pay it off. That way it helps build your credit.
Thank you so much, Luwiza, for sharing your advice as well as expertise on the importance of a credit score. My big takeaway from that was I was quite shocked to realize that employers are actually pulling the credit scores. So if not getting a great loan on a car or a house, or even a personal loan for whatever means you see fit to use it, is not enough of an incentive, then definitely getting a job is critical to having a good credit score. So I think that's something that's definitely important to highlight. Thank you so much. Welcome our next speaker. His name is Noel Mwamba. He is a real estate broker, very, very good at what he does, whether it's giving advice on renting or buying a home, or just showing areas where there's good property, good potential, as well as how to invest wisely so that you're knowledgeable about the market with real estate. He's also CEO and founder from Mwamba Realty.
Good morning, everyone. And I should mention I'm very, very pleased to be a part of this panel discussion on financial literacy, breaking the chains of economic slavery. I will be speaking about real estate. Briefly about myself, my name is Noel Mwamba, born and bred in Zambia. I moved to New York when I came to the States, and I worked with the United Nations for quite a while. While I worked for the UN, I got into real estate, and it was kind of by an act of God, and at the same time, it was a very lucky experience. What happened was that I was working in Asia, and I was working on an island of East Timor, which had such beautiful ocean views and beautiful qualities as a tourist attraction. So when I came back to New York, I wanted to have an apartment which overlooked water. So what I did was, it was by chance. I purchased my first property. I paid about $50,000 for it. And I continued working in my job with the UN. From Zambia, I hadn't learned anything about real estate. So, it didn't even cross my mind. But what happened was the area that I was living in, it was kind of like a marginal area. It wasn't so rich. There was a lot of poor people there, but it was by the water. So what happened was that after 5 years after owning the apartment, the developers came to where I lived, and they wanted to transition the area to make it touristy and have luxury condominiums. So one day I received a call from an investor, and he wanted to buy my condominium for $160,000. This is what I had bought for, $50,000. Coming from Zambia, I had no idea, that such a thing was possible, that you could just win a jackpot, from just living. So I got this call, and the first time it caught me by shock, and I did not want to sell, obviously. I said, I live here. But then I started researching into the real estate, and then I found that, wow, property values can go up. And once your property value goes up, you're able to cash in. After a few months, actually, I sold the condominium. I got the money from that. I went to get my real estate license because I'd learned that, okay, real estate was the way by which you could make money. And I started getting into real estate while I was still working with the United Nations. Fast forward a few years, I went with the United Nations to work overseas, and I started having my family. And it became a bit of a challenge being away from my family. So what I did was I delved into real estate, bought another property, this time for investment, held on to it. After a couple of years, cashed in on it. And then I realized that, I wanted to come back home to build a family. And I realized I could make money from real estate if I could do this, consistently. So I actually quit my job at the UN, which, was a shocker because, no one quits a high-paying UN job. But I realized I could make money in real estate if I focused on it. I came back, resigned from the UN, started working, and I registered my business, started my business. 3 years ago, I moved to Atlanta and, focused on growing the business in Atlanta. We actually had a pretty strong year, 2019. 2020, due to COVID, we've had a little bit of a setback, but real estate is still growing strong. And, things are looking positive. So right now I work as a real estate broker. It's my own business. I help people who want to buy and to sell real estate. I give a lot of guidance to people who are looking to get information on real estate. And I try and promote home ownership in the diaspora, especially in the Zambian community. I try and push for people to say, try and own your own property. Just based on where I am today, being in the real estate business, I just want to share something that I learned when I bought my first apartment. When I came from Zambia, I didn't know much about real estate. But when I bought the apartment, a lot of people that I was surrounded by, progressive college graduates, they were buying properties. So I was like, okay, I need to get my own property too. So I just want to share this, with the audience to say, it's very important to surround yourself by progressive people. Because although we haven't learned in Zambia about some things, but sometimes the people around you can share that knowledge, like, okay, buy stocks, like Mr. Joshua mentioned, invest in startups. When you're surrounded by those people, you're able to pick up and do positive and progressive things. There are some studies that say that you are the average of the 5 people that are around you, like the 5 close friends you have around you. You're like the average. So if they're losers, you're gonna be a loser too, likelihood. If they're progressive, you're gonna be progressive. So just a point that I just wanted to share, amongst those who are still learning, that it's very important to surround yourself with positive things. So that's a little bit about myself and how I got into real estate. Once I had the first property sold, using that capital, I was able to just continually, buy property, sell it, buy, rent it out, sell it. And that's what I have done, maybe I'm kind of losing track, 8 to 10 properties that I have actually owned and then sold them myself up to now. And I'm still doing the same thing besides helping people who want to purchase and sell real estate. So that's a bit about myself and how I got into the real estate game. When we leave home and we move into our own place, at the end of the month, we all pay rent. What many people don't understand, or they don't recognize, that when you pay rent, you're actually paying a mortgage, except that you're not paying your own mortgage, you're paying someone else's mortgage. The person that we rent from has a mortgage, whether it's a management company, whether it's an individual owner, they have a mortgage and they are using you to pay that mortgage. This is one thing I always tell my clients, potential clients, customers. I always say, try and purchase that property that you're renting. Try and buy it as soon as possible, because at the end of the day, you're pretty much just enriching somebody. You're paying somebody else's mortgage note. So it's very important for us to try and own a property. By owning the property, we enrich ourselves by earning equity, and we put ourselves in a position to gain some wealth and to increase our net worth in the long run. Sometimes we are not yet ready to buy. Luwiza had spoken about credit. Sometimes our credit is not good. Sometimes employment might not be strong. In America, besides credit and employment, they also look at your down payment. Sometimes we don't have down payment. So we say we're not yet ready. But what's important is to just focus on getting those things in order, our employment, salary, down payment, credit. We need to focus on that. Joshua had mentioned budgeting. Budgeting is very, very important. Most of us, like we all know, we are not taught about budgeting and all those things. So we just have money in the checking account and we're spending it. For many of the guys, and I am included myself, when we were young, we get paid, we go bowling, we go out to the nightclubs, to lounges, we spend money. But all those things, we do them because we don't have a budget. It's so important to have some sort of a budget, as Joshua had emphasized. If you have a business, you should have a business budget and a personal budget. But once you have the budget, you are able to accomplish the required steps towards purchasing your property. You're able to have a down payment and you're able to fix the credit. Once you have a budget, you're able to fix the credit and have your financial credentials in order. Real estate will always appreciate. When you buy real estate in an area that is popular, whether it's Lusaka or it's New York, whether it's Atlanta or whether it's Kitwe, if you buy real estate in an area that is desirable, the property value is going to go up. That's just a fact. That's why I emphasize so much on the importance of home ownership. As soon as you have a meaningful employment that allows you to maybe save a little bit of money, get rid of your rent bill and exchange it with the mortgage. That's one step that I would like to encourage, as many people as possible, especially in our own community. I'd like to encourage them to take that step. So that's about purchasing your own property. The third segment of my presentation focuses on investing in real estate. Now, there's different ways that you can invest. Some people do, fix and flip, like you see on HGTV, where you find a property that's messed up, and you fix it up, and then you sell it for more money. That's popular, although it requires more experience, because you deal with contractors and a lot of other people. However, the basic investment is being a landlord when you purchase a property to rent out. This is something that I encourage many people to do once they have the first property bought, and then they've built some equity. Then you're able to maybe take out equity from the first property to buy another property that you can rent out. Now, right now, this is a very good climate for that, because the cost to borrow money is very cheap these days. What I mean to say is you can get interest rates on mortgages for as low as 2.75. 2 weeks ago, I closed the deal for my client from Ghana. He got 2.9, which was a very, very low interest rate. And just to give you a basic example, you're able to say borrow 100,000. You're able to borrow 100,000, and you're able to on that property, your mortgage might just be say 300 or 350 will be your mortgage, but that 100,000 can get you a property, for example, in Atlanta, where the rent will be 1,200. Do you understand? So you're gonna collect a rent of 1,200. And then you're going to pay off the mortgage of 350, and you remain with about 800. I actually did this in March. Purchased a property for 104,000. I rented it out for 1,300, and the mortgage payment is about 350, and the 800 gets saved. And that's money that you can save to pay your current mortgage if you have one. You could put it aside for just savings for your college funds for the kids, or you could use it for any other important purposes. There was someone who was talking about buying a property, building a house in Zambia. You're able to use that investment to finance another project of that nature. So that's something that has become very, very important. According to a Gallup poll, 35% of families in the USA today are investing in real estate for their long-term investments. 35%, as opposed to stocks. We have 21% of families investing in stocks, 17% are investing in savings account, and 16% are investing in gold. So real estate as an investment vehicle has become a long-term, is a very preferred medium, because one other reason is that real estate is it's a tangible asset. It is illiquid, but it's tangible. You know, when you have a property, it's there in solid, matter, as compared to, say, stocks. The president can issue a statement, and then the next morning your stock is gone. But real estate, it's tangible, it's an asset, and it's there. And personally, that's why I like it, and I always encourage people to invest in real estate for that reason as well. I see so many families today. The kids are ready to go to college, and I see them, scampering, say, how are we going to get money for the kid, to go to college? And sometimes, if at an early age, you buy a property specifically for that, rent it out. By the time your kid is ready for college, you're going to have sufficient equity in that property to finance your kid's education.